Hi everyone, it's Rachel back with the Shades of Orange. Today I'm here to do a spoiler-free review of Ghoster by Jason Arnopp. This is one that I received from the publisher Orbit Books, and this is a horror thriller that follows a woman named Kate who decides to move in with her boyfriend even though they've only been dating for 3 months. And as the move date approaches, she has trouble getting a hold of her boyfriend, but decides to move ahead with things anyway and shows up on his doorstep with all of her stuff, only to find that his apartment is completely empty except for one thing that he's left behind, and that is his cell phone. So naturally, she is trying to figure out what happened. Had something terrible happened to her boyfriend, or has he simply ghosted her and decided to break up with her in the most passive way possible? And so she decides to break into his phone and go through his apps to figure out what happened. Let me start by saying that this book gave me serious Black Mirror vibes, which is a TV show on Netflix that I absolutely love. And this book definitely has a similar tone to it. So if you're someone who, like me, loves when a story is part horror, but also a very close look at how our society treats technology and social media, then this one might really appeal to you. This is definitely a thriller in terms of structure. It's told over 2 different timelines, one being the present day when Kate is going through his phone trying to figure out what has actually happened. And then we also get flashbacks to the past that start back when Kate met her boyfriend Scott, and you get to see their whole courtship leading up to this move. And so it feels like a thriller in the way that you know that the author is holding things back, you know that something is going on, but you don't know what, and you spend a lot of the book really going back and forth trying to figure out what happens. However, I want to be clear that this book is publicly marketed as being a horror book. So if you go into this expecting a straight up thriller, you might not get the book that you are expecting. Instead, this book definitely delves into some places along the way that I'm going to keep really spoiler free, but trust me that there is more going on in this story than meets the eye. And I very much liked that aspect to it because you know that I'm first and foremost a horror reader, although I do still enjoy a really well-crafted thriller. From the synopsis, you can probably tell that this book really incorporates a lot of social media and technology and is very modern in tone. I like the fact that the author doesn't shy away from the use of technology, but rather incorporates it right into the story. And because of that, you get tons of mentions of different apps like Instagram and Tinder and WhatsApp. And with all these modern references, the author really takes the time to examine our culture's obsession with social media and technology, and does it in a really interesting way, which is a lot of reasons why this book reminded me so much of Black Mirror. This book definitely is relationship focused. A lot of the story is focused on Scott and Kate and how they got together, so it does in some ways almost read like a romance. And I did feel like the middle section of the book could have been slimmed down. It's almost 500 pages, and there is a lot of time focused on the two of them, establishing their dynamics and going through the different stages of dating. It's also very adult. I want to mention that there's definitely lots of references to sex. You're going to hear discussions of everything from Tinder to sexting to erections. So if you're not comfortable with that subject matter, might not be for you. I don't mind it at all. And it's also very adult in terms of language. There's plenty of F-bombs, and it just fits the story really well, because I should mention that this book has a very snarky tone, which I think is something that the author is really good at, bringing in a piece of humor while still keeping the book quite serious. It's not a horror comedy by any means, but there is a humor to this book that worked really well, and I was pulled into the story right away because it's just that little bit snarky and very much self-aware, which I really enjoyed. Now, one of the things that comes with writing a really modern horror book is the challenge of trying to create an atmosphere or gothic tone, and I found that while I very much enjoyed this book, I didn't at all find it scary. To be clear, I do not need a horror horror book to be scary in order to enjoy it, but I do still look for creepiness in my horror books. It's definitely a bonus when I find it, and I really didn't get that from this one. Again, it almost felt more like a thriller, where it was more about the suspense and the mystery of finding out what was happening, but I never was personally scared or scared for the characters in the way that I do enjoy looking for in horror. But again, that comes to the fact that it's just very hard for me to get into that mindset when you're talking about things like Instagram and WhatsApp. But regardless, this was still a fascinating book. It comes together a little bit disjointed towards the end. I did have a little bit of trouble with the transition from moving from a thriller over to the horror aspects of this book. I feel like this book could have been edited to be a little bit tighter and a little bit more focused, but regardless of that, I did like how it ended. I somewhat predicted it, but that wasn't a downside. Instead, I just felt really smart having guessed the ending. And again, I think this book will appeal to anyone who likes a very modern take on a thriller or horror piece and just wants something fresh, something different, with a lot of snark, a lot of humor. And if you are someone who is obsessed with the show Black Mirror and are looking for a book equivalent, I think this is definitely one to check out. So I do recommend it if you are that right audience. So that is it for my quick spoiler-free review of Ghoster by Jason Arnopp. I would love to know your opinions down below. If you've already read it, let me know what you thought of it, as long as you keep it spoiler-free. As well, if you haven't read it, have I enticed you to check it out for yourself? Do you think this one sounds up your alley? I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy videos like this, please consider subscribing. Otherwise, give the video a big thumbs up and hit that notification button so you don't miss a video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.